The massive holographic display flickered with an eerie blue light, casting long shadows across the Galactic Council chamber. Hisu's small frame trembled slightly, but his eyes burned with an intensity that belied his diminutive size. Around him, towering delegates from 100 different star systems looked down, both literally and figuratively, with expressions ranging from mild amusement to outright contempt. The Krill delegation consisted of just 3 representatives, their blue-tinted skin and delicate bone structures making them look more like fragile crystal figurines than serious political contenders. Massive reptilian ambassadors shifted in their seats, their scaled bodies creating soft rustling sounds that seemed to mock Hisu's every word. "We request support against the expanding Vorg territories," Hisu said, his translation device, converting his high-pitched voice into a steady, determined tone. A ripple of chuckles spread through the chamber. The Vorg were known as ruthless conquerors, consuming entire planetary systems with their advanced robotic legions and quantum-powered warships. Commander Riquan, the senior Krill diplomat, placed a gentle hand on Hisu's shoulder. They both knew the odds. The Krill homeworld was a small planet, orbiting a dying red dwarf star, with technology that seemed primitive compared to the massive battle cruisers surrounding their delegation. Suddenly, a holographic projection materialized, showing the devastating path of Vorg expansion. Entire star systems reduced to metallic debris fields, planetary surfaces stripped of all organic life. The Vorg didn't just conquer, they consumed entire ecosystems, converting biological matter into raw materials for their endless machine armies. The Galactic Council representatives barely seemed interested. A massive tentacled ambassador from the Hydron Collective picked at something resembling a technological toothpick, while a crystalline being from the Zorn Confederacy appeared to be taking a nap. Hisu's datapad projected intricate defense, strategies, complex algorithms showing potential resistance methods against the Vorg invasion, but no one was listening. No one cared about the smallest species in the galaxy. "Your proposal is denied," announced the Council President, a towering being from the Arcturus system. His voice was deep, resonant, carrying the weight of centuries of galactic bureaucracy. The Krill lacked the military capacity to resist any significant threat. But Hisu wasn't finished. He knew something they didn't, a secret that could change everything. Hidden within the Krill's genetic memory were adaptation techniques developed over millennia of survival. Where other species saw weakness, the Krill saw opportunity. A small robotic companion, no larger than a house cat, hovered near Hisu, its quantum processors analyzing the chamber's complex political dynamics. The device, nicknamed Spark, had been Hisu's companion since childhood, a technological marvel that represented the Krill's true strength, innovation through collaboration. As the council session dissolved, Hisu caught a glimpse of something. Outside the massive transparent dome, a human observation ship drifting silently among the diplomatic vessels. Little did he know that on board was J1, an engineer whose path would soon intersect with his own, in ways no galactic algorithm could predict. The Krill delegation walked out, their steps measured, but their spirits unbroken. They had been dismissed, ridiculed, and completely underestimated. But Hisu carried within him a spark of hope, a burning certainty that their time would come. Outside the council chambers, the galaxy continued its complex dance. Massive starships moved like elegant predators between planetary systems. Quantum communication networks hummed with endless streams of data, and somewhere in the vast darkness, the Vorg were advancing. But the Krill had survived impossible odds before. And this time they were ready for something extraordinary. End of Part 1. The deep space cargo vessel, Horizon Breaker, drifted through the electromagnetic interference zone between the Orion and Carina spiral arms. Inside the pilot's cabin, J1 sipped his lukewarm coffee, watching multiple holographic displays tracking potential trade routes. His ship was nothing special, a modified deep exploration vessel retrofitted with experimental quantum drive systems. Most corporate traders considered these routes too dangerous, but J1 loved the challenge. His modified sensors could detect micro-variations in spatial currents that others missed. Suddenly, multiple red warning signals erupted across his navigation screen. Something was happening, and it was happening fast. A Vorg attack squadron emerged from quantum shift space, their metallic exoskeletons gleaming like polished nightmares. 6 razor-sharp assault vessels, each designed for maximum destruction, targeted a small diplomatic craft trying desperately to escape. The diplomatic ship belonged to the Krill, those same tiny blue-skinned beings who had been mocked in the Galactic Council just days earlier. J1's first instinct wasn't heroic. Traders knew better than to get involved in interstellar conflicts. One wrong move could mean total destruction, or worse, getting blacklisted from every trading network in the galaxy. But something about the way the Krill ship maneuvered caught his attention. Despite being completely outgunned, they weren't simply running. They were fighting back, using unconventional tactics that seemed almost intelligent. Spark, run combat analysis, J1 muttered to his ship's AI. Holographic combat simulations flickered to life. The Krill vessel, despite being smaller than a standard escape pod, was using quantum energy dispersal techniques that were confusing the Vorg's targeting systems. Most pilots would have turned away, but J1 wasn't most pilots. With a series of rapid keystrokes, he activated the Horizon Breaker's experimental quantum disruption cannons. These weren't standard weapons, they were prototype systems designed to manipulate spatial energy rather than cause direct damage. The first Vorg. Assault ship suddenly found its quantum stabilizers completely destabilized. Its perfect metallic structure began to shimmer and twist, like liquid metal caught in an impossible dance. "What the?" J1 whispered. The Krill diplomatic team, observing the unexpected intervention, adjusted their own defensive protocols. Their small vessel began executing maneuvers that seemed to synchronize perfectly with J1's quantum disruption fields. One by one, the Vorg assault ships started experiencing systematic failures. Not explosions, not dramatic destructions, just complete technological collapse. Inside the Krill ship, He-Su watched in absolute amazement. This human pilot wasn't just fighting, he was conducting a technological symphony that defied every standard combat protocol in the galaxy. Quantum cannons fired, energy fields twisted. The very fabric of space-time seemed to bend around the Horizon Breaker and the small Krill vessel. After 17 minutes of the most unusual space battle in recent galactic history, the Vorg squadron was completely neutralized. No explosions, no massive destruction, just technological surrender. J1 opened communication channels. The small blue face of He-Su appeared on his primary display. "Unexpected assistance," He-Su said, his translator rendering his complex native language into crisp English. "Most impressive." J1 just grinned. Just another day in deep space, friend. Little did they know this chance encounter would change everything, not just for them, but for the entire galaxy. The stars outside continued their silent, eternal dance. Somewhere in the vast darkness, something extraordinary was beginning. End of Part 2. The quantum communication network hummed with tension. Intercepted Vorg transmissions revealed a chilling truth. Their previous defeat was merely a prelude to a much larger invasion plan. He-Su's research facility, nestled on a small moon orbiting a hydrogen-rich gas giant, buzzed with activity. Holographic displays showed massive invasion routes, each represented by pulsing red lines cutting through peaceful star systems. "They're planning something big," He-Su muttered, his small fingers dancing across advanced quantum computing interfaces. Spark, his robotic companion, projected complex probability matrices that made the threat even more terrifying. J1 arrived aboard the Horizon Breaker, bringing with him something unexpected, human ingenuity and a collection of experimental technologies that the Galactic Council had repeatedly rejected as too radical. Their makeshift war room looked nothing like a traditional military planning center. Star charts mixed with complex algorithms, quantum mechanics textbooks, lay scattered next to prototype energy weapon schematics. It was a perfect blend of Krill precision and human creativity. "The Vorg aren't just conquering," J1 explained, pointing to a holographic representation of their technological infrastructure. They're systematically converting entire planetary ecosystems into robotic infrastructure. It's not just war, it's complete biological replacement. Massive robotic construction units, each the size of small cities, were shown consuming planetary resources. These weren't simple machines. They were intelligent, adaptive systems that could transform entire worlds within weeks. The Galactic Council's response? Complete indifference. The smaller species were considered expendable, and the larger civilizations believed they were safe from the Vorg's expanding territories. HFY's scientific team began developing something extraordinary. By combining krill genetic adaptation technologies with J1's quantum disruption techniques, they created a revolutionary defense strategy. "We can't fight them conventionally," HFY explained, "but we can make ourselves invisible, not physically, but technologically." Their plan was audacious. Instead of building massive weapons, they would develop adaptive camouflage technologies that could make entire planetary systems essentially undetectable to Vorg scanning systems. J1 brought something equally remarkable: designs for micro-quantum disruptors. These weren't weapons in the traditional sense. They were technological adapters that could essentially confuse advanced robotic systems. Their research base became a hub of frantic innovation. Young krill scientists worked alongside J1, their blue skin contrasting with his human features. But they shared something powerful: a determination to survive. Intercepted Vorg communications revealed their next target, a cluster of 17 minor planetary systems, home to billions of inhabitants from various smaller species. The invasion was scheduled in precisely 72 standard galactic days. "We have less than 3 months to prepare," J1 said, his voice calm but determined. Spark, the quantum AI, began running millions of potential scenarios every second. Each simulation showed the same terrifying result: total Vorg victory if traditional defensive strategies were employed. But HFY and J1 weren't interested in traditional strategies. They were about to rewrite the entire concept of technological warfare. Outside the research facility, massive quantum telescopes continued scanning distant star systems. Somewhere in the vast darkness, the Vorg were preparing their invasion fleet. Massive robotic construction units were being assembled. Planetary consumption algorithms were being fine-tuned. They had no idea what was coming. No idea that the smallest species in the galaxy was about to become its most dangerous opponent. The brewing conflict was about to become something no one could have predicted. End of Part 3. The first Vorg invasion wave arrived with mechanical precision. A massive fleet of 10,000 robotic assault units, each capable of obliterating entire planetary systems in minutes. Their quantum-powered engines created rippling distortions in space-time, a terrifying display of technological superiority. But something was different this time. As the Vorg fleet approached the targeted star cluster, their advanced scanning systems began experiencing inexplicable glitches. Navigation computers suddenly showed impossible terrain configurations. Targeting systems detected phantom energy signatures that vanished the moment they were locked. J1 and HFY had transformed defensive strategy into an art of technological deception. Their micro-quantum disruptors created a living, breathing, technological ecosystem that constantly shifted and adapted. It wasn't about stopping the Vorg. It was about making them question their own technological supremacy. "Target acquired," announced a Vorg command unit. But the target kept a-changing. Entire planetary defense systems seemed to breathe and move. Mountains transformed into energy fields. Ocean surfaces became complex holographic projections that absorbed and redirected massive energy weapons. The Vorg found themselves fighting something that wasn't just technological. It was alive. Spark, the quantum AI, orchestrated this impossible defense. Millions of adaptive algorithms ran simultaneously, creating a defense network that learned and transformed faster than the Vorg could comprehend. Robotic assault units found themselves suddenly confronting terrain that defied all known physical laws. Quantum energy fields created impossible geometries. Navigation systems went completely haywire. One Vorg battle group attempted a direct assault on a seemingly defenseless agricultural world. Their massive, city-sized robotic units descended, expecting total victory. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a technological nightmare. The planet's surface began to shift, not through traditional camouflage, but through complex quantum manipulation. Forests became energy barriers, agricultural fields transformed into complex defensive networks, rivers turned into quantum transmission channels that disrupted robotic communication. J1 watched from the Horizon Breakers command center, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. "They're not just confused," he told Hisu. "They're terrified." The Krill scientist smiled, a rare expression for his typically reserved species. "We're making them question everything they understand about warfare." Vorg command units began experiencing total system failures. Their perfect logical networks suddenly encountered something they couldn't process: unpredictability. Creative problem-solving, the very essence of biological intelligence. Massive robotic assault units found themselves redirected into impossible spatial configurations. Some disappeared completely, only to reappear thousands of light-years away. Others found their quantum cores suddenly destabilized, transforming into nothing more than complex metallic sculptures. "We're not destroying them," Hisu explained. "We're defeating their entire technological philosophy." Each Vorg battle group lost more than just units. They lost their sense of technological superiority. Every encounter became a lesson in humility, in the power of adaptive, creative intelligence. The invasion that was supposed to take weeks began crumbling within days. Galactic monitoring stations watched in absolute amazement. The smallest, most ridiculed species in the galaxy was systematically dismantling the most feared technological force ever encountered. No massive explosions, no traditional warfare. Just pure intelligent adaptation. The Vorg weren't just losing a battle, they were experiencing a complete philosophical defeat. As the first wave of invasion completely collapsed, something extraordinary happened. The surviving Vorg units began broadcasting a signal that no one expected, a signal of retreat, a signal of respect. End of Part 4. The Galactic Council chamber fell silent. Where once they had mocked and dismissed the Krill, now every delegate watched, with a mixture of shock and respect. Hisu stood at the center of the massive holographic stage, his small frame casting a surprisingly large shadow. Behind him, J1 represented humanity, not as a military commander but as a testament to collaborative intelligence. Evidence of their incredible victory against the Vorg played across massive display screens. Not a single traditional weapon had been fired. No conventional military strategy had been employed. Instead, they had defeated the most technologically advanced invasion force through pure adaptive intelligence. "We didn't just defend ourselves," Hisu explained, his voice calm and measured. "We demonstrated that technological superiority means nothing without creativity." Spark, the quantum AI companion, projected complex data streams that made even the most advanced alien computational systems look primitive. Each holographic visualization told a story of how the smallest species had outsmarted the most feared technological force in the galaxy. The Arcturus Council President, the same being who had previously dismissed the Krill, now looked humbled. His massive crystalline form seemed to shrink under the weight of this unprecedented victory. Vorg diplomatic representatives sat in the chamber for the first time in galactic history. Their robotic interfaces displayed what could only be described as technological humility. They weren't here to negotiate surrender, but to understand. "Our entire strategic framework has been challenged," a Vorg representative announced. Its voice carried no anger, only a strange sense of respect. "We encountered something beyond our computational models, genuine adaptive intelligence." J1 stepped forward, explaining how their defense wasn't about destruction, but about transformation. They had essentially taught the Vorg invasion force a complex lesson about intelligence, adaptability, and survival. The research facility where Hisu and J1 had developed their strategies became an instant galactic landmark. Scientists From hundreds of species began studying their innovative approaches. What had started as a desperate survival strategy was now becoming a new paradigm of conflict resolution. Quantum communication networks buzzed with the story. Smaller species, that had been traditionally overlooked, now saw a new path forward. The message was clear: size doesn't determine potential. Creativity does. The Krill homeworld, once considered a technological backwater, suddenly became a center of galactic innovation. Research facilities expanded. Young scientists from multiple species arrived, wanting to understand the philosophy behind their incredible victory. Hisu and J1 became more than heroes. They became symbols of a new approach to understanding intelligence, conflict, and cooperation. The Vorg didn't just retreat. They began a process of technological re-evaluation. Their rigid, computational approach to existence was fundamentally challenged. They started developing systems that could learn, adapt, and most importantly, understand. Spark continued processing millions of scenarios, demonstrating that true intelligence isn't about processing power, but about creative problem-solving. "We didn't win a war," J1 told the assembled delegates. "We demonstrated that the most powerful technology is the ability to understand, adapt, and collaborate." The Galactic Council chamber, once a place of mockery and dismissal, had transformed into a symbol of hope. Smaller species looked at Hisu and saw potential. Larger civilizations looked and saw a fundamental shift in understanding technological superiority. As the final diplomatic discussions concluded, something extraordinary happened. The Vorg representatives requested a cultural exchange program. They wanted to learn, to understand, to grow. Outside the council chambers, the galaxy continued its eternal dance. Countless star systems, countless civilizations, countless potential conflicts. But something had changed. The smallest species had shown that true power isn't about size, technology, or military might. It's about imagination. End of Part 5.